a looming U.S. government shutdown. The House Speaker is efforting a last-minute effort to keep the government temporarily open, but with steep cuts. Millions of federal employees, military personnel, and others are bracing, perhaps without a paycheck. Owen Fairclough reports.
Millions of U.S. federal employees and troops risk being sent home this weekend without pay or forced to continue working, not knowing when their next paycheck might be. That's after what's considered a last-ditch attempt by the leading Republican in the U.S. Congress, Kevin McCarthy. The Republican Speaker of the lower House of Representatives failed to sell a deal to keep government functioning into mid-November or so. That's because a faction of hardline conservatives rejected his proposal to cut spending by around 30% across many government agencies. For them, it's simply not enough. This is an age-old battle over how much the US government spends and indeed how much it adds to that ever-growing national debt pile. The two are highly interconnected and almost led to a government shutdown in the summer before Democrats and Republicans managed to come together to provide another short-term bill, essentially kicking the can down the road to where we are now. This time, Republicans, including Kevin McCarthy, want to kick that can down the road a little bit more, but those ultra-conservative, hardline Republicans are simply saying that is not enough for us. Democrats, for their part, have coalesced around a Senate proposal to keep government funded until November without those stringent cuts. And the White House, with US President Joe Biden, hasn't really entered into this negotiation, despite McCarthy trying to appeal to the White House to get involved. Speaking of spending cuts, one person who will be following this with great interest and probably mounting concern will be Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, having been in Washington, D.C. just over a week ago to hear Joe Biden tell him the United States has your back. He's now looking at a majority of Republicans in Congress who are opposed to providing any more financial aid to Ukraine in its conflict with Russia. And there's probably growing concern among many in the Ukrainian government that if the US doesn't have its back anymore, who does? Owen Fairclough, CGTN, Washington.
All right, for more on this in the U.S. economy, Otaviano Canuto joins us, Senior Fellow at the Policy Center for the New South and the former VP at the World Bank. Good to see you again. You know,
Good to see you as always.
The pessimistic side of me says this is stupid. Okay, there's no other way around it. The optimistic side of me says, well, maybe Sunday night, maybe Monday, the right side, or at least the Republicans, say, oh, we had a shutdown, and then they'll figure something out by Monday morning. What do you think?
I don't think I'm on your pessimistic side as well, because see, what happened today is very much telling of the state of arts. More than the 20 hard right Republicans defied Kevin McCarthy, who presented a bill that was not even satisfactory from the standpoint of the Democrats, and so we are bound to go to shut down. Tomorrow night will be the limit. I believe it will take some days before a solution can be found.
These 20 or so Republicans, what's the point of shutting it down? What do they have to gain by this? What point are they making across to the American public?
They believe that, you know, by former President Trump, they want to create dysfunctions and the bother of public functions that will not operate over these days, with the limitations given by the shutdown, with furloughs, with clerks being sent home, or those in essential functions working without pay and so on. They want to create insatisfaction. It's politically driven, or they dream of obtaining at the end of the road the kind of very stiff, deep cuts in spending, including in the aid to Ukraine.
Okay, well, they're not going to get the deep cuts because they don't have the majority. I mean, they are a small minority in the Republican Party, and nearly every poll shows that Americans essentially are blaming not just the Republican Party, but obviously the small sector as well. They're essentially hurting their own party and their own chances for whatever collective goal they might have, and that's what I don't understand.
Well, but that's their bet. Their bet is exactly to make things so bothersome that the other side would concede some sort of a defeat by accepting even deeper cuts.
So,
And also the change in the immigration policies as well. We should keep this in mind.
I get that, but you cannot commingle, the budget with immigration policies or what's happening in Ukraine. The White House, there's no way the Democrats, and they don't have to budge on this. So what would be the compromise, if you want to call it that, say in 3 or 4 days, or in a week, or in 2 weeks?
I would say 2 weeks, because the way things are now, it's non-imaginable that an easy solution could be found right away. So it's going to take. There are two possible scenarios. The shutdown remains for 2 weeks, right? And so the damage will be minimum. Or this things gets dragged, and then we're going to see, as we saw in the previous shutdown that we had, which was, remember, during Mr. Trump's time, the things were not solved before January of next year.
Well, look, the good news is this, that whatever damage was done last time, it was relatively short-lived. This time around, though, assuming we do shut down on Saturday night, some are saying planes are going to stop, and this is going to stop, and that's going to stop, and people aren't going to get paid. And I take everything with a grain of salt. What realistically will happen on Monday morning if there is a shutdown?
Simply, some functions will not be there. We know that this time is different with respect, for instance, to museums. Museums are better prepared. We also know that, of course, the essential functions will keep on happening, but we might have potential interruptions in air travels, in the operations of national parks, in the tech support, in the support to business, and so on. We might have, the federal courts are saying that they are ready to keep working. But the fact of the matter is that, authorizations for things to happen, environmental evaluations, that's why the impact of the shutdown will depend on how long does it stay. If it's only a couple of days,
right,
then it's minimum.
I want to do a point of clarification, because a few months ago we had another huge debate regarding the debt ceiling. Now,
yes,
that one was more broad and perhaps more serious, you could argue. This time around, we're talking about the budget. And
yes,
where I'm going with this is that for everyday Americans, we worry about our credit rating. And Moody's and S&P has already said that that's at risk if we don't get our act together, so to speak. Do you worry that there could be a potential downgrade in the credit rating?
Yeah, well, Moody's has already alluded to. Remember, we had Standard & Poor's in 2011. They never reversed their downgrade. And then this year we had Fitch. And the argument by Fitch is that, the discussion in May, leading to the downgrade in July, was because the ability to pay the debt was at stake. It's not the case now. The debt payment is not under risk. It's more a matter of functionality of the government and so on. So there is a low likelihood of a credit event with respect to the public debt. Nonetheless, what Moody's has called attention to is this deep fragility of the fiscal framework of the U.S. As compared to other countries that have a AAA and so on, the United States have a very fragile fiscal framework, as expressed in the fact that every year to have a budget approved,
right,
is such a nightmare, right, and so on. And also there is and we are at a time in which now the interest rates are higher. They will stay higher for long, while the trajectory of the public debt and of public deficits and so on is upward. So this is an important signal for this country to improve.
Well, look, that's a whole nother issue on what to do with our national debt levels, both at the federal side and also at the state and county side. I mean, we could talk for hours on end about that. I think ultimately, I wish sometimes our infighting wasn't so transparent, but But here we are. We'll just hold our breath and see what happens on Saturday. It's good to see you, my friend. Have a good weekend.
You too.